What's up, Trainiacs? Welcome to this week's Triathlon Newsday Tuesday. In this week's edition of Triathlon Newsday, Ironman Kona premieres all around the world, and it's not what you'd expect. Lance Armstrong is back, and he wants to be made whole or complete. He's doing a little play on words, that crafty devil. And potentially the best comeback of the year in the pro triathlon ranks happens. Whew. That was something. What's up, triathlete? Tie. What's up, triathletes? Welcome to this week's Triathlon Newsday Tuesday, where every single Tuesday we talk about the occurrences happening all around the world of triathlon over the previous week. As always, full links to everything I talk about will be in the description below, and make sure that you stick around to the end where everyone's favorite part of Triathlon Newsday, that is a story from the Trainiac community, happens, and let's get right into it. Over the weekend, NBC broadcast its annual coverage of Ironman Kona. Now, this is typically a big highlight to the year. Everyone's looking forward to it. This year, again, everyone was looking forward to it, but the coverage was quite a bit different than previous years. Different announcer doing the voiceover, different length, going from the 60 minutes that it's been the last few years to the 90 minutes that it was this weekend, and different, as a video person, frame rates. They would go from like 24 frames a second to 30 frames a second to 60 frames a second, and it almost looked like some of the footage was shot on an iPhone, and it mixed like these $200,000 cameras with really cheap looking stuff. So it was quite a bit different, and I got some interesting texts about the quality of it this year, we'll say. I'm sure that you can go and find a ripped off version of it somewhere on the internet out there. Good luck to you. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Now, also sticking with Ironman while we take off the tie and get into the serious business here, Half Ironman East Lothian in Scotland will not be renewed for 2019, despite having over 2,500 athletes over the previous 2 years. Apparently, what happened is after the last couple of years, there were some complaints by local residents saying that the music was very loud and that the traffic was congested. Well, welcome to hosting an Ironman. They went back to Ironman and brought up these concerns, and Ironman, being the 10,000-pound gorilla in the triathlon industry, said, well, you know what, we're not going to change the format of how we put on a race just for this one race. We out. That's my take on it. Again, link to that is in the description below. It's very vague, but I know that in other races, when people have pushed back on Ironman, it does not end well, and Ironman just says, you know what? We have a way of doing things, and if you aren't going to follow that, we out, yo. Now, Lance Armstrong has been coming back into the news occasionally, having more of a public profile over the past couple of years, having a very successful run with his The Move podcast, formerly The Stages podcast. And he was just in a promotional commercial from the human performance company Onnit, where he poked fun at himself. And the commercial started out with him saying, I want to be made complete. I want to be made complete. And it's built up as if he's looking for his 7 Tour de France victories back, or maybe some of the money that he's lost back. But in the end, he really just wanted a little piece of himself back. Go and check out the video, and Lance, I like that you're owning what you're doing, because nobody else can make these jokes, and you get me views here on Newsday Tuesday, so keep doing what you're doing, buddy. Now, getting into the race coverage, the Ultraman World Championship happened over the course of the weekend, and if you thought that Ironman was pretty namby-pamby and not tough enough, the Ultraman World Championship is for you. Get this. Also held on Hawaii, so there are tough conditions. The event consists of a 10K open water swim, 6.2 miles, then a 420K bike, 261.4 miles, and then a double marathon, 84.4 kilometers, 52.4 miles. And this event is held over the course of 3 days. It's like each day is a stage, and it was won this year in 22 hours, 9 minutes and 26 seconds by Australia's Richard Thompson. You crazy, Richard. Actually, you know what? As I was thinking about that while I was writing it, I'm like, you know what? I should do the Ultraman. I should try to win the Ultraman. Forget not even having done an Ironman race. I'm winning the Ultraman someday. Dreams. We can have dreams. Now, one of the best comeback stories of the year, we have Terenzo Bezzone making his comeback after crashing severely, almost losing his life just 5 months ago. Terenzo made his comeback racing half Ironman Western Sydney over the weekend, and the man won. And this was no slouch of a performance. He won in 3 hours, 43 minutes, and 26 seconds. In addition to that, he had to beat out Sam Appleton, 5th in the World Championship this year. Terenzo had one of the best starts of 2018 of any pro. It's probably going to be on my list for having the best year of anyone in triathlon. Had this horrific crash and comes back and wins against stiff competition. Incredible talent here by Terenzo. Very impressive. Congratulations to him on your comeback. Let's get you on the podcast. Now, the women's race in Western Sydney was also won by Radka Kalefelt. Now, speaking about the podcast, go and tune into the Triathlon Taren Podcast. It is still the most highly reviewed and ranked triathlon podcast in the world on iTunes, and it is because of excellent guests like Jocelyn McCauley, who we just published an interview with her on the weekend. And Jocelyn is a phenomenal pro, but comes at it from a really unique perspective where family and being a mom is so intertwined into her persona that this was a really unique perspective that I don't think we've had any time on the podcast, particularly from a pro before. Coming up this week, we'll be interviewing Chris Gethin, who is actually a world-renowned natural bodybuilder who has been doing some Ironmans. He's a very successful bodybuilder and entrepreneur in the bodybuilding space, and I think he's going to join Team Trainiac. And I want to hear what it's like for those people coming from a real strict weightlifting, bodybuilding background and starting to train for endurance, and how he was able to get through that and how we might be able to help him on Team Trainiac. Really interesting guy. So make sure you're subscribed to that. Now, let's get into everyone's favorite part of the week. That is the Trainiac Story, and it starts out with, hello, my name is Dallas Loudon. I work as a police officer, and I live with my wife, Karina, and our 7-month-old baby girl, Adeline, in Queen Creek, Arizona. Karina is my #1 training partner. Prior to getting involved in triathlon, I was quite overweight, and I was bullied in my younger years due to my weight, as well as the fact that I had a speech impediment. This upbringing fuels my fire, motivates me both as a triathlete and to help others get started in triathlon. My journey started when I stepped onto a plane weighing in at 283 pounds just after 2010. While I was serving in Panama City, Florida with 6 other Latter-day Saints missionaries, and I volunteered at Ironman Florida. This was my first experience with Ironman, and as I watched the athletes jump into the ocean that morning, I remember thinking how painful it would be to finish a 140.6 mile race. As I watched throughout the day, I saw many people crying, grabbing their legs, and even calling it quits. But by the end of the day, as I watched the last finishers and I saw the joy in their faces with them pushing their bodies to the absolute limits, I told myself that one day I would become an Ironman finisher. I volunteered at Ironman Arizona in 2011, then signed up to race Arizona in 2012, and after throwing down that $700, I knew there was no backing down. 8 Ironman races later, including Kona in 2016, plus several ultramarathons, the mental fight is what I love about endurance sports. As I'm getting ready to do yet another Ironman in a couple of weeks, the goal is, of course, to put together a perfect race and make it back to Kona. But even with that history of racing behind me, 2018 has been one of my most challenging years. While dealing with the stresses of my job and the joys of being a new dad, getting my training in has included countless sessions at 1 a.m. and more recently, some stroller training runs. I'm excited to continue doing this sport that I love with my entire family. I love that, Dallas, and I wanted to share that because I talk about this being the triathlon and endurance lifestyle. And it's not about the triathlon preparation for this sport and then that sport and then this sport. It's about a lifestyle that occasionally you are going to go through ups and downs, and you are going to have children or change jobs, and it's going to become more challenging. But if you always have a mindset of, I can fit it in whenever I can, maybe it's 1 in the morning, maybe I take a step back and I come back to Ironman later in life when it's more fitting, that is part of the lifestyle. But if you have that mindset of fitness, of overcoming challenges, and of trying to better yourself a little bit every day, but understanding that it isn't just about racing, that's what I am about. That is the endurance lifestyle, and that's what we are trying to promote with Team Trainiac, incorporating triathlon, health, and mental well-being into life. So, thank you very much, Dallas. If any of you want to get your story shared here on Triathlon Newsday, make sure you email me, Taren at triathlontaren.com. We've only got a couple left, so give me your stories. I know over the course of 2018 there have been some awesome stories out there, so we want to share them because it helps motivate the entire community, and Pete wants more stories so that he can come in and photobomb. Anyway, if you aren't already subscribed and you like Triathlon Newsday Tuesday, make sure you're subscribed, and if you are subscribed, thank you. Pete's tail thanks you. Later, Trainiacs.